Living Waters Wellness Center was formed after we discovered how to heal my own body from the multiple symptoms, including allergies, asthma, chronic fatigue, back pain, psoriasis, acne, hives, yeast infections, and finally, cancer. After 20 years of trying numerous different treatments, everything from medical to cleanses, iridology, muscle therapy, acupuncture, acupressure, homeopathy, naturopathy, these experiences led us to discover the recipe that became known as the Four Natural Laws of Healing, combining multiple natural healing modalities to fully detox, cleanse the body, and then allowing the body to take the perfect nutrition to fully restore the body back to its innate health. This became known as the 10-day healing retreat. We have helped thousands of people just like you get their health restored so they can live their life to the fullest extent. If you want to know what that looks like, go to livingwaterscleanse.com and click on the video Four Natural Laws of Healing, or call the office at 208-378-9911. Good morning and welcome to the show. My name is David DeHaas, and host of the Whole Body Detox Show from Living Waters Wellness Center, where miracles begin by healing from within. Living Waters Wellness Center is Idaho's largest colon hydrotherapy center and known for its 10-day cleanse and healing retreat. Each week, we provide you with the necessary education and tools to detox and heal the body following the Four Natural Laws of Healing. To learn more details about the Four Natural Laws of Healing, go to livingwaterscleanse.com and click on the link Four Natural Laws of Healing. Watch that video. If you missed any parts of this show or want to re-listen to certain segments, be sure to subscribe to our podcast, wholebodydetoxshow.com, on any national podcast platform, or you can go directly to the website at wholebodydetoxshow.com. Today's show, we're back again for the third week with a very important message from Dr. David Kennedy, DDS. We talked so much about dentistry and root canals and fluoride in the water and the mercury in your teeth and how to properly remove them. I had him back one more time because there were some key critical questions he had to answer. And so enjoy today's show. We had to make this into two podcasts. So if you missed the first ones, you want to go back and you can learn about all the things he's done on the very first podcast. But here we go with the third edition of dentistry and what's going on in your mouth. Pay attention. This is really critical to the healing process, especially for those of you concerned about breast cancer, nerve issues, so forth. The teeth are a critical component. You can't ignore that. So let's go on to the show and listen to Dr. David Kennedy depart his wisdom to us.
What's the top questions one should ask their dentist regarding taking the mercury out, the root canals, and the implants?
So I tell people that, if you confront a dentist, they get angry and they bark back at you. So
Right.
use the curiosity approach. Say, what do you think about mercury fillings? And see what they say. If they're wonderful and never harmed anybody, and they're just there's just a bunch of quacks that think they're terrible. I think I forgot to put money in the parking meter. I'll get right back to you.
Right.
And show them the back of your head, because they're not listening. When I began to oppose mercury fillings in 1980, 3% of the dentists were opposed to them. 97% and 100% of the dental schools taught them to be used. They're still used in 100% of the military: Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Public Health Service, Indian Service, and all your low-cost welfare dental programs, and most low-cost dental insurance they use economics, so that if you get this one, it costs you $10. If you get this one, it'll cost you $100. So they use economics to push you toward the toxic filling. So anyway, just say no to mercury. I don't care whether it's in a fish or whether it's in a filling or the vaccine. You don't want it. So broken fluorescence. The people don't get it. Mercury is a terrible poison, whether it comes inside a fluorescent tube or it comes from the paint store as a mold inhibiting substance you can add to your paint, or whether it's in a filling or it's a fish, or it's out of a coal fire power plant, and so where do we get our pushback from? Is that all these industries that leak mercury, from oil refining to crematoriums to coal, say we're idiots. Oh, you fools! So whenever you see an industry calling individuals bad names, look at what the industry is afraid you'll pay attention to, because people aren't stupid, but they believe the bad name calling. So name calling means look at what that person said about another substance and then pay attention to that, because I've been called about as many bad names as you can imagine since 1980, when I began to not voice this, just eliminated it from my practice, and that made me a quack. Why? Because all the rest of these quacks were using it, so that they called me bad names. And now this year, I think the most recent survey, I think it's a few years old now, is that 50% of the dentists don't use it. Well, I mean, why does it take 40 years to get halfway to sanity? And that's because of pushback from industry. And you're going to have government of the industry, by the industry, for the industry, until you take industry out of politics. And we won't let the Russians participate in our elections. We shouldn't let industry participate in our elections. We don't need our government to take care of industry. Industry can take care of itself. We need government of the people, by the people, for the people. And that annoys industry, because sometimes our interests and industry's interests diverge.
What about root canals? What's the question to ask there?
The question would be, if you had a tooth that died, how would you treat that? And then listen, because if they say I would put that with other dead things and put it in the tooth graveyard, which is called the wastebasket, and clean out the hole, because there's always infection around a dead tooth. And yeah, that's the person to go to. If they say, well, you know, this and that, one thing and another and whatnot, and oh, your other teeth will fall apart if you don't have that wonderful tooth there. And so what we'll do is we'll save it by embalming it with a root canal. Yeah, okay. Thank you for sharing, and go somewhere else. That's the wrong answer. You want to have somebody that's on the same page you are, which is dead things need to be buried.
Speaking of dead things, the periodontal ligament, do dentists get taught to clean that up in dental school?
No. You learn that from being in the IAOMT or the IABDM or International College of Integrated Medicine. What you're talking about is if you don't clean the hole where the tooth was, then what happens is the skin that lines that tooth can then line a cavitation or a blank spot inside the jawbone that fills up with dead stuff again, because it's still necrotic bone, or it's called ischemic bone that doesn't have any circulation, and bacteria grow in that. It's not rocket science. I mean, you can walk through any forest, and if you take your little hatchet and hack on the side of a tree, that there's no bugs run out. If you take that same hatchet and hack on the limb that's on the ground, all kinds of crawlies come out, because the way the earth is that when something dies, the mold and bacteria and bugs take it back. Termites, et cetera, they eat the wood, they eat the thing. And so that's true of all dead things. When you're buried in the ground, do you think you just stay there? No, you get digested by the bacteria from your own body, the bacteria from the ground, and then you go back to the planet you came from. And that's what happens in you if you've got a dead tooth left in your jaw, because it sits there and rots basically and fills up with bacteria. They did an experiment, I think the best experiment, where it makes a real clear statement, and it was done I think in Korea, where they did root canals on healthy teeth. These are teeth that have never died. They were perfectly healthy wisdom teeth, which brings to mind, why would we take a perfectly healthy wisdom tooth out? Don't. And so anyway, it's like, if you were perfectly healthy, would you get your appendix removed? I don't think so.
How did that get started? I always thought it was the weirdest thing. It was not bothering you. Why was I gotta get my wisdom teeth out? I gotta get my wisdom. What started that?
That's support for the dental profession and the oral surgeons. Part of it was the military. I remember in Vietnam, one of the biggest reasons for soldiers to be off the front line was wisdom teeth. And, hell, if I could get a few days away from the firing line and saying, oh, this guy's hurt me, I'd go back and have somebody pry it out, and that would save me a little bit of front line activity. Probably less likely to die from that than you are from the hail of bullets at on the other end of the front line. So, but anyway, so the military, never to be outdone by clever soldiers looking for a way to get out of the front line, just simply routinely had all the wisdom teeth extracted while they were in boot camp.
Oh my word!
Yeah, no reason to leave the front line now, buddy. Yeah, get there and fire away. So anyway, it's a silly. The other reason that you end up getting wisdom teeth extracted is because of our deficient nutritional system. And I'm sure you've had programs on that. If you haven't, I'll recommend a few. But what's happening is that your face doesn't grow like it should. And so it doesn't grow, so you end up with it's called micronathia, which your lower jaw and your upper jaw end up undergrown. Weston Price went around the world taking pictures and measuring jaws in the 20s and 30s, back when there were large groups of native peoples living in Borneo or Africa or even Southwest United States that had remained on the native diet and didn't have Roundup in their food. They didn't have highly processed foods, like anything in a box, like a breakfast cereal or most cans. And like some of the worst food in the world is baby food. We took Gerber's Tender Harvest, which is their good for the baby food, chicken, and it was 8 parts per million fluoride. If you want to watch one of my other documentaries, was China's battle with crippling water, that 8 parts per million cripples people. It's a horrible level. How did it get in there? Well, the whirling blades of the deboner occasionally nick the bone. The chicken stores poisons in its bone. So if you grind up those chicken bones a little bit at a time, it ends up poisoning the food. So debone chicken, if mom does it in the kitchen, if you got a nice organic chicken, cooked it up, deboned it in the kitchen, and made sure all the bones go into the recycler or the trash or whatever you're doing with your bones, fine. But if you have a machine do it, it's mechanically deboned meat. Well, mechanically deboned meat is everything that you can think of, like bologna, salami, baby food chicken.
Basically poison.
You don't want whirling blades to nick the bone because the bones are terrible.
Okay, I pulled my tooth. Maybe I've got 5 or 6. I sometimes have people come in here and go, oh my God, I mentioned about root canals. And they go, I just spent $30,000 getting these root canals, blah, blah, blah. What do they do to replace their tooth? I know in my mouth, they're in the back, I got 3 holes.
Well,
what else? What can you
do? My grandfather didn't have any teeth, and he wore a prosthesis and dentures. He used to stick his teeth out and try to scare the grandkids. So we've been able to replace no teeth with prosthesis for 150 years. Just a one tooth. My wife was really sick. She had a stage 4 cancer, and you don't want to do a lot of work on somebody that's got a stage 4 cancer. Their body is supposed to be doing restorative work on make that cancer go away, and we did, by the way. Intravenous vitamin C, hyperbaric oxygen, and not every nutrient known to mankind. And when she passed away at age 85, 13 years later, she didn't have any cancer. She died of a heart attack from a clot, and she'd had clots when she was 21. So these things happen. But
that's good. That's good to know. People listen to the show. Stage 4 cancer, recovered, lived to 85, and didn't die with any cancer in her bones.
Yep, no cancer at all. She was just.
It can be done, folks. We've talked about it many times in this show, but I wanted to highlight that.
Otto Warburg got a Nobel Prize in 1931 for discovering that cancers were anaerobic. What does that mean? It means the mitochondria are broken. So if the therapy does not address healing the mitochondria, you're not going to get well. It's not the solution. You might be able to cut it out. You might be able to blast it with a toxin or something like that. But the reason it's there is because there is no mitochondria working. Mitochondria is the master controller, and it makes the cell apoptose, they call it. But basically, when that cell gets worn out, the mitochondria send out the signal, okay, boys, time to digest. And they take every single molecule and break it down. And so, it's like a circus. When it's over, they take all the elephants and, and bind them up and take them away. Then they go someplace else and build another circus. So anyway, she had a tooth that died, and it died while she was really sick, and I didn't want to go to the trouble to grind on her, and she wasn't the best dental patient in the first place anyway. And so, not to traumatize her, basically I took the tooth out, cleaned out the hole. You gotta clean out the hole, because there's always an infection under a dead tooth. So clean out the hole, clean out the ligament. Then she had a space, and she didn't like that. So I made her a one-tooth partial, and it's really quite simple. And this has been around for close to 100 years. And that here's a model of her mouth, and that if you can see that she's got a tooth missing. If I can hold this where that camera is, there.
I can see it.
A tooth missing, and so I made a gold partial that fit in there, and it fit in just fine. So that now she had a tooth that she could eat and anything. As long as there's a tooth on either side, you can it's a bridge. You can put a 2x4 between two sides of a creek and walk across it.
When you say bridge, so you've got a piece going over the top of the other two teeth on either side.
Exactly, and
that's the gold.
But one of the most important things that many people forget is, just like the mountain climber's hand on top of the mountain,
right?
There has to be a little bit of the partial sitting on top of the tooth on either side, or that when you step on it, it goes down. If you built your 2x4 over the creek and you didn't attach it to the top of the sides of the creek, then you're going to be swimming. So
right.
It needs to go all the way across. And that's every dentist that has taken a good course in removable prosthetics knows to do that. And I knew to do that. My father was really good at that. A lot of the instruction he got was from the Navy. He was in World War II, and periodically went back to Bethesda and took courses in prosthesis. And so that's one way. I'm not in favor of implants. They are foreign objects going from one of the dirtiest areas of the body into the jawbone. And if you with the new probes that we have for DNA, you will find that if you have atherosclerotic plaques in the arteries, if you take those out and analyze them, there are oral bacteria in those plaques. Well, the pundit would say, well, that doesn't prove they caused it. Well, I don't need causation. I don't think I want bacteria swimming around my bloodstream. That whether they caused any problem that some doctor can diagnose as you've got oral fluoropapillomatosis or something, I don't care. I don't want bacteria in my bloodstream, because normal, healthy people don't have bacteria in their bloodstream. So if you find them glommed on into atherosclerotic plaque or in brain, that's another place that Alzheimer's, which is caused by elemental mercury vapor, but because the brain is diseased, it fills up with bacteria. So A, don't inhale mercury vapor, and B, don't let bacteria get in your brain. So what do you do with dead teeth? I take them out, and then you clean the hole. What do you do about the missing tooth? You discuss it with the patient and see how they want to replace it. You can replace all the teeth, or 90% of them, or 10% of them. I have a guy that had 3 teeth left on his upper arch, and we built him a removable partial that had room for 3 teeth, and he did a wonderful. He can eat anything he wants. He particularly likes to chew up vegetables and steak and that sort of stuff. So that was the you just need a couple anchors to hold that stuff in place, and then you don't have to use a glue. But even if you have to use a glue, then that'll work. you can glue them in with stuff like Fixodent or Permadent, something like that will hold in a loose floppy denture. I had a handicapped guy that the VA took all his teeth out. Oh, that's great. Take all his teeth out. Now what am I supposed to do? And so I made him a denture, and I had to show him how to get it out. It fit so tight. So you got to blow air under it, Richard. So we showed him how to blow air under it so he could get it out. But anyway, so you can restore the mouth with any number of different ways.
But just don't do the implant, don't do zirconium, don't do titanium, don't put any of that, because you're going to have that infection go into your blood.
And don't keep dead teeth. And so people whine, oh, I don't want to lose a tooth. I said, you've already lost a tooth. It's like a war. If the soldier's dead, don't sit around and whine about the dead soldier. Move out of the area and find out who killed him.
If one could only shrink and crawl into the blood system and see what's going on and how much of a battle your body is fighting because of just these basic little injuries we've done to our body, it'd be fascinating.
Well, watch my movie, Bad Bugs.
Bad Bugs. And yes, youtube.com/David Kennedy DDS. Lots of great videos. You guys got to get over there and get some education. Lots of good stuff.
We did that exactly. We took Scott's saliva, and we also took his blood, and then we looked at it, and he had all kinds of crawlies in both, and then we did it again, and they were gone after we cleaned up his mouth. We didn't clean up his blood; we cleaned up his mouth. That's where they're coming from.
Go to the root source, yeah. Okay, so recommendations: brushing teeth, flossing.
Most people can't floss. I mean, seriously, it's an exercise in dexterity, and that what if you're 80 and you got hands that have trouble fastening buttons? So let's not give you an impossible way, but if you go to the drugstore, you will find lots of different things. Like this is a thing that
what do you call that? What's that? What do we call it?
What did they call it? It by gum, GUM, and it's an interproximal cleaner. It basically is fuzzy. Can you see?
I can see it, but explain it on the radio. So, guys, it looks like a sword, kind of a slightly curved sword.
But it's flexible on the end.
Okay.
In case you miss, you don't hurt yourself with it.
Is that reusable?
Oh, many times. I carry one around my pocket.
Okay.
And you can dip it a little. If you want to make it really, really lethal to the germs that are causing problems, you could dip it in something that they don't like. Ozonated olive oil, iodine, salt, even.
Well, hydrogen peroxide, would that work?
Peroxide will do it.
Okay.
And you can dip it and rub it in between your teeth, dip it again, rub it again. And then you can basically anoint all those areas in between your teeth and make all the bad guys that are in there, I call them, the germs, shrink and die and go away. I had a lady that had a terrible gum disease, and her periodontist had shown her how to do what she called gum grooving. And I always used a microscope to look and see what kind of germs lived around her teeth, and she was perfect. So she'd solved gum disease. I can't say that about most of the patients that were treated for periodontal disease with surgery. Most of them still had the same organisms that caused the problem in the first place. And that's why surgery actually accelerates the disease. You didn't kill the cause. You just cut off some of the tissue. I call it gum circumcision. So she wanted to show me how she cleaned her teeth. So she took an ordinary toothpick, bit the end of it, made it blunt, and then proceeded to, like a pocket knife under the fingernail to clean the gook out. She took the toothpick and went around the collar of each tooth, like you would both outside and inside, with just 2 fingers and about a 3/4 inch piece of toothpick, and went around every tooth. And then she pointed out, she said, "Can you hear that squeak?" And I could. And she said, "That's squeaky clean." Because if there's scum on the tooth,
right,
it slides right on by, like, a foot on mud. And then once you get all that gook off your tooth, it's squeaky clean. And so when do you want to do this? I think you want to do this while you're driving a car or watching TV or sitting around doing nothing better, because you don't have to have a sink. You don't have to have a whole toxic stuff in your mouth. We didn't talk about fluoridated toothpaste, but it actually, the new study showing that there are many unintended consequences of fluoridated toothpaste, including damage to the brain of the fetus and the increase in blood pressure because it kills off the normal flora in the mouth.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's lots of things wrong with using. Don't put anything in your mouth that you wouldn't eat. And so if you pick up a tube of toothpaste, it says keep out of reach of children. If you use a pea-sized amount is swallowed, call the Poison Control Center. I don't want that in my bathroom. I don't want that in my mouth. That's silly. Use something out of the kitchen. Baking soda, salt. You can eat tea tree oil, it won't hurt you. You can use iodine. It's essential. Lugol's is the essential mineral that everybody needs. Lots of it.
Everyone tests sufficient iodine here that comes into our office. Yeah.
Exactly. Because it's good for you.
Right.
Used to be the standard of care in medicine is if somebody came in and you didn't know what was wrong with them, you gave them iodine and they got better. So what happened there was we came up with a bunch of malarkey coming from the FDA saying you only need 134 micrograms. Well, that study was of children who were in a low iodine area, and 20% of them got goiter, where the thyroid blows out and they look like a frog. Well, I don't think having 20% of the children blow out like a frog with a goiter is the adequate intake. And so I more go with Max Gerson, who treated, he's got a good book called 50 Incurables Cured, and that he treated rapidly, very advanced cancers with stuff like you're doing, colonics, and 7 green and 7 yellow organic juices, and iodine. And so if you can make horrible cancers go away with nutrients, maybe we should try that instead of, trying to make them go away with terrible poisons.
I did a whole show on iodine. I'm trying to find the number.
Sherry Tenpenny?
What's that?
Was Sherry Tenpenny?
No, I just did it alone. And as I was researching it, I was reading some Dr. Jensen's books, and I don't remember what else. But back years ago, if you got sick, you went and saw the seaweed guy, seaweed man. Iodine.
There's a little bit of iodine in seaweed, but Gerson was more into nuking it. He would use lots of it. I think he used 12 milligrams. He's never died from 12 milligrams of fluoride.
Well, we test
12 milligrams of iodine.
Yeah, I find here when I test this muscle test, most people are testing for 50 to 60.
And what you find is they get better.
Yeah. No, it does make a tremendous difference. Okay, we met water picks.
Water pick is a mechanical device that you can put stuff in it and squirt your teeth with. If you put water in it, it works kind of okay. If you put something in that water that the germs don't like, it works much more effectively. What kind of stuff would that be? Iodine, salt, baking soda, the various anti-ozonated water, etc. But let me give a warning that it, just like taking your outboard motor out to the ocean, if you don't rinse that baby out thoroughly, you're going to ruin your water pick. And so I would rather you ruin a water pick than ruin your oral health. But anyway, a constant maintenance. I had one lady that had a water pick that she had used, like I was describing, for 14 years. And she had a whole routine that she went through about when she got done. She took it here, she put olive oil in it, ran that through to make sure that all and a quart of warm water to wash all that stuff away. On the other hand, once you're well, if you took that little fuzzy thing and dipped it in iodine, poked it between all your teeth, and somebody looks under a microscope and all the bad guys are gone, you can tell if they're there because your breath is bad and your gums bleed and your teeth get loose and wobbly and fall out and you die of a heart attack. So when they're all gone, that maybe you'd like to have a maintenance way to do that. And there is a thing called the shower breeze, is one version that screws onto the shower. And it's a hose that you can poke in between your teeth. So if you took the little fuzzy thing, poked it in between all your teeth, or you took a half a toothpick and rubbed it around all the thing, got everything loose, then you need to wash it off. And that's it's exactly like washing a car. If you rub it all down and then go back in the house, the car is going to look terrible. So if you rub it all down and then you take and hose it off, car looks good. So same with your mouth. Is it that stuff that you just rubbed around? If you don't, and you can't do it with mouthwash, you can't do it by swishing. There's not enough direction. You can't get the swish in between the teeth because there's already fluid there. But if you have a little hose, you can squirt it through there. Not a car wash, but just a rinse. A tsunami, I think, is a more appropriate discussion, because you can flow something that kills germs like your ozonated water through there, and then all of a sudden the bad guys, the bad guys that are causing gum disease are what are called anaerobic bacteria. They can't stand oxygen. Gee, I live on oxygen. Maybe I should use something that I like a lot and they don't like at all. And that would be ozone or peroxide or iodine or tea tree oil or grapeseed extract. So lots of things you can use.
What about oil pulling?
If you got about 30 minutes a day with nothing better to do at work.
Yeah, I'll put some in when I leave the house and go for a little drive. I'm driving down the road. Yeah.
Too time consuming for me. I'm more of a let's get it done.
We have to take a break. You've been listening to me interview Dr. David Kennedy, dentist, who discovered years ago that mercury amalgam fillings are not good for the body. He's also written several books, and he's also did 25 different documentaries on this subject. So we're talking about root canals, implants, fluoride in your water. So this whole interview goes on for quite some time. The whole interview is over on our podcast, Whole Body Detox Show, wholebodydetoxshow.com. You're going to want to listen to the whole thing. And guys, we're here to help you out detoxify. That's what Living Waters does best. To learn more about what we do in our healing retreat, go to livingwaterscleanse.com. Click on that video, The 4 Natural Laws of Healing. Watch that in its entirety. And then give us a call at 208-3789-911. 208-3789-911. We're here to take care of you and your health. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You can't treat the body and heal it a piece at a time. You have to treat the whole body naturally. That's why Living Waters Wellness Center 10-day healing retreat is so successful in helping what I call the incurables back to wellness. Here's what a few clients had to say about their experience at Living Waters Wellness Center.
For over a year, I've been dealing with gas pains, stomach pains, and it's been waking me up in the middle of the night, so I never get a full night's rest. And last night, after my first colonics, I slept through the entire night without any stomach pain or any kind of issues.
I suffered from migraine headaches for 12 years, once a month, and since I did the 10-day retreat at Living Waters Wellness Center 8 years ago, I have not even had a migraine. I've not even had a headache.
I had back pain on my left side for about 25 years. After the 10-day healing retreat, the pain is completely gone.
To learn more about the 10-day healing retreat, go to healingtheincurables.com or call the office at 208-378-9911. That's 208-378-9911. The preceding examples may not be typical of your experience and may not be right for you. Seek the opinion of a qualified healthcare professional before determining if cleansing is right for you.
Welcome back. This is David DeHaas from Living Waters Wellness Center, livingwaterscleanse.com, where miracles begin by healing from within. Hey, if you want to reach out to us and learn about detoxification and cleansing your body, if you got brain fog or constipation or any of those issues, we're the people to see. Job one is getting that colon open. Reach out to the office at 208-378-9911, 208-378-9911. Don't forget to go to our website and watch the video, The 4 Natural Laws of Healing. With any toxification, we've got to clean out the body and clean it up and take care of things. And we're talking with Dr. David Kennedy today, who's talking to us about your teeth. We're talking about root canals, mercury fillings, partial dental implants. Should you put an implant into your body? Is there anything that's safe that way? What about fluoride? All these things and more today in his session. And we go for quite a while. So if you want to listen to the whole interview, go to wholebodydetoxshow.com or wherever you get your podcast, just type in Whole Body Detox Show And now back to the interview with Dr. David Kennedy.
This is a little bit off topic, but I had a client come in. I really felt sorry for her. She had some bad dentistry done, and they cut her trigeminal nerve, damaged it somehow, and she was in pain to the nth degree. I mean, no opioid would cut her pain. Any thoughts on healing that nerve?
I think the way the nerve heals is the same information that we all sat through and listened at the ALS Cures ALS conferences.
Right.
That, and that they have 52 people at the ALS conference that are on their registry of having reversed an irreversible disease, including the guy that gave the talk that went all to clinic after clinic after clinic after ended up the Mayo Clinic. And the doctor with the wagging finger says, "You've got a fatal disease. You're going to die." And he didn't like that. So he went and figured out how to make himself well. And he said at the end of his lecture, somebody asked him, "Well, what did you do?" And he says, "Well, the correct answer is all of the above." He did everything. He got everything. He got the bad stuff out of his mouth. He got the bad stuff out of his diet. He got the bad stuff out of his body. And got the bad stuff out of his bowel. He got everything. He did everything. And even blood pheresis, where they use a technique to get toxins out of your blood.
Yeah,
all of the above.
Do it all. Yeah, folks, you got to do it all. You got to clean up the body. You can't do it piecemeal. So many clients come into our clinic, and I'm sure you had the same in your day.
I just want to do this one thing.
I want to do one thing. I want to do one colonic and see if that clears my issue. I got severe constipation. I just want to do one. Yeah, that's not going to work. You don't clean your car by washing one tire.
We're at the conference. One of the subjects that came up was Boyd Haley's mercury chelator, the oxidative stress, and that one of the questions was, how much do I need to do? And as much as you can afford,
right?
Because what it does, it takes away oxidative stress. The reason you're going to die is because of oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is illness,
right?
If you get snake bit, what you have is oxidative stress. If you take strychnine, what you have is oxidative stress. And so if you have anything wrong with you, it's oxidative stress. And so it's good to get rid of oxidative stress. But what people don't understand is mercury from your fillings dislodges iron from where your body has it in handcuffs. And so this comes by and releases the prisoners. And those prisoners create huge amounts of oxidative stress. OSR picks oxidative stress up first, and then it takes the free iron. Then it takes the free copper. And after it gets the mercury out first. Mercury, arsenic, lead, cadmium, uranium, free iron, free copper. It probably takes gadolinium too. We have anecdotal reports of people that were given MRIs. I had a guy that was on the bed. He was a war veteran, and he'd had 17 MRIs with gadolinium, and he could not get out of bed. And he contacted me, and I sent him I called it Betty's stash, because my wife recovered from Parkinson's. I tried to treat it by taking the mercury fillings out. They didn't solve the problem, but it stopped it from getting worse. She'd had it since the 70s. And then when Boyd Haley sent us some OSR back in about 2007, her tremor stopped. She would sit there and saying no all the time, and her head would shake left to right. And so that got our attention. I'd been trying to get rid of that darn tremor for 27 years, and all of a sudden it goes away. I said, okay, that's good stuff. And anyway, so he was in bed and couldn't get out, so I sent him some. I called him up probably 2 or 3 months later, and he was out building fences. He'd completely gotten well and was back on working. So yeah, I worked. I just heard from Boyd this last week, a lady that we met, a veterinarian that we met in Copenhagen when we both spoke there years ago, had wildlife. She was a wildlife veterinarian, and she had an eagle that had huge levels of lead, I think it was. And Boyd had basically this compound's been available for animals and wildlife, but not humans. Oh, no, we can't have humans getting well.
Right.
And so it was available for humans for 2 years, and the FDA blocked it, and they continue to block it to this day. Anyway, she had some OSR and treated the eagle. And in 1 day, it went from lying on its side, unable to get up on the perch, to up on the perch, eating and flying. So, and exactly the same thing happened to an eagle in Sweden years ago. It was the environmentalists there go out in the winter and feed eagles when there's so much ice on the river that they can't get the contaminated fish, and that there was a eagle lying on the ground by the feeding platform, but he was so sick he couldn't fly up to the platform. So the guy picked him up, stuck him under his jacket. He said it was like putting an ice cube under his jacket, and he went back to the aviary. And they put a whole 100 milligrams in a mouse, and the guy kind of scrunched over on his side. He was hungry, so he couldn't even stand up to eat the mouse, but he ate the mouse. And the next day they come in and he's standing on the perch. And so maybe we gave him too much. No, you give him the exactly right amount. You cannot take too much of this. There's no adverse events from taking too much. Anyway, they gave him 2 more capsules in the next 2 days. The fourth day, when the guy came in, he wasn't quick enough to close the door, and the eagle jumped off and flew away.
Wow, what a story. What's in OSR? What's
It's a man-made molecule that is I call it a ball and chain with 2 arms, and it's got at the center of it is a 6-carbon ring. That's your ball, and then the arms are 2 long arms made out of a common amino acid called cysteamine. And it's the long and floppy. It's like the guy in front of the filling station that has the blow up doll that has the arms that flopping all over. There's no energy on these long carbon arms, but they're not fragile. They're good and solid. And so what happens is when it gets anywhere near a heavy metal, that the metal has electrons that want to configure these arms. And so it will configure itself to be ideal for mercury, arsenic, lead, cadmium. They're all different. Mercury is 180 degrees, so the arm's got to be on either side. It's like a clamp on either side of the head. Whereas iron is at 45-degree angle. All of them are different. This molecule basically says, "How would you like it?" and makes it.
Wow.
And
is it something in mind? I mean, why is it? How do you get it? I mean, who makes it?
If you Google OSR, you'll get 2 or 3 Chinese companies selling stuff that'll make you sick.
We don't want that stuff.
And for a while, I had some that I called Betty Stash because I had lots of it for a long time. I'm down to the last 200 or 300 jars. But the FDA, boy, the Chinese stuff makes people sick. If you don't believe me, go read the Facebook blog. Wet a toothpick and take that much because otherwise you'll get ringing in your ears and this and that. And no, that's not OSR. That's some kind of stuff that they swept off the floor in China and put in a jar. OSR has never made anybody seriously ill. It's made lots of people seriously well. And so that is being constantly blocked by the Food and Drug Administration. They even stopped Boyd from selling it, claiming that he was claiming to cure autism. No, the parents of autistic children were saying it cured their children. And so, now we've got a new reason to block drugs and things that cure. We can't have that. It cuts down on our using pharmaceuticals that made them sick. Autism is acrodynia or Pink's disease. If you Google Pink's disease, you'll come across a recent article about how autism is the not usually fatal version of Pink's disease. Pink's disease unquestionably was caused by mercury. Back in the turn of the century, they were using mercury for everything, even during the Civil War. The only Surgeon General to ever be fired from that position, Surgeon General is the head of the Army Medical Corps. And that a guy named Johnson during the Lincoln administration ordered, as is his right, the medicine doctors of the Civil War to stop giving tablets of calomel. And they got together and got him fired. The medicine has always loved mercury. They still do to this day. It's in your flu vaccine. It's in all of the vaccines at low levels. They changed the reporting levels, but most of the precursors are raised on a mercury substrate. And so there's no reason for you to ever let mercury get into your body. So no sushi, no tuna, no fish out of the contaminated rivers of this country. And if you have fillings, carefully get them out. Who says mercury fillings are dangerous? Oh, that would be the Food and Drug Administration. Oh, it's schizophrenic. If you say dental amalgam safety, it'll take you to a web page on the Food and Drug Administration web page that says, oh, dental amalgam has been used for 200 years and it's wonderful and safe and it's really good and blah, 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 blah. And then if you say warning, it'll take you to another website that says if you've got neurological illness, because mercury damages every nerve ever known to mankind. That's why they were using it on babies, to make them quit crying. If you take a little bit on your finger and rub it on where you're cutting a tooth, it makes the tooth quit hurting immediately, and then it kills the baby. But anyway, but slowly, only about 1 out of 500. So, but anyway, neurological illness, kidney illness, cardiovascular disease. Oh, don't get your new mercury fillings if you're a female and can get pregnant. From the moment you're conceived in the womb to menopause, don't get mercury fillings. But if you got them, don't get them out, because that's dangerous. Wait a minute. How did they get in? I mean, if it's dangerous to take the car out of the garage, who put it in? I don't understand. So schizophrenia is what I call it. Or F&DA.
Wow. Guys, you got to go watch his YouTube videos, youtube.com/David Kennedy DDS. Actually, shocking that all your videos are still there and not disinformation. Have you started putting them on Rumble or BitChute or some other place to?
I got copies of them. They've been pretty good to me. They did take off a little bit of my producer made a bunch of trailers. When you make a film, and then you want to tickle people's imagination and make a trailer. They killed one of my trailers, and it was basically an animation of a scientific study by a guy named Schubert. In 1978, Schubert was looking to see if there was any synergistic toxicity. It's a term that you will find tossed around, but then ask for the studies. They don't do them. But anyway, Schubert decided that it would be interesting to see what happens if you had not just one poisonous substance, but 2 or 3. And so he studied 3 of the most poisonous substances we know, mercury, lead, and cadmium. And he found that if he took an infinitesimal amount of lead that would not harm even one animal, 1/5 of a amount that would kill one animal. So he took the lethal dose to one animal out of 100 and used only 1/5 of that, 20% of that. And then he took the amount of mercury that would kill 1 out of 100 animals and gave it to the animals together, and all of the animals died. It turned a 1% and a non-issue to 100%. So mercury and lead together killed all the animals. They took that off.
Wow.
It didn't fit their community. I said, I wrote him out. It's a scientific study from 1978. It's been replicated 1,000 times. Nope, not our community standard. So don't tell people that toxins are bad and multiple toxins are worse. No, you don't know that.
And I think there's one other question that they should know, going back to the questions to ask Dennis about removing the mercury. And one you mentioned earlier when I didn't hit the old record button was, how are you covered up and how is your dentist covered up and how are they pulling that air out of that room and recycling it, right?
In San Diego, we had doors that are open and giant fans. But in Idaho, you may have a different mechanism. But a friend of mine, Grant Layton, built me what he called a giant sucky thing. And that he took the blower out of a forced air gas furnace. He just took the blower and he basically took the intake and cut it down to the size of the dryer tube, the
Right.
white dryer tube, and you put a net filter over it, because if you drop the inlay or the
Yeah.
it would disappear and fly out into the parking lot. But anyway, so he built that for me, and the patient would hold that giant sucky thing so that if you were smoking a cigar, that nobody would smell it. And that really is you can smell down to parts per billion. You can't smell mercury. Dogs can, but you can't. So they didn't want that to the fumes to come out. So you start off, the IOMT has a training program for dentists, and it's called SAFER, SMART, Safe Mercury Amalgam Removal Technique, SMART. And so the SAFER technique is what you do is you completely cover the patient with a drape. So none of the particulates are little, even with that giant sucky thing, there'll be little tiny pieces of mercury ground up landing on clothing and stuff like that, and gets in the laundry and gets in the baby's diaper. You don't want that. So you completely cover the patient with a plastic drape. You can take a garbage can and cut a garbage can liner and cut it in half. That'll work. It's not going to cost you, $6. So you cover the clothing. Then you use a rubber dam, preferably made out of nitrile rubber. Nitrile mercury doesn't penetrate that as well. And then you put a hose on their nose so that they can breathe through the nose during the moments that the stuff is being removed. And they dramatically increase the amount of water spray. Yes, it splatters, but so what? You're trying to keep that filling cool, because mercury vaporizes. So the tip of the burr on a drill is about 400 degrees, about as hot as a cigarette. When you put that in a mercury filling, and you got mercury gas everywhere. So that's my video on YouTube. It's called Poison Metal Fillings, or Smoking Teeth equals Poison Gas. So you want to keep it cool. So they do. And so you cool the drill, you cut the filling in half, take it out in two pieces. It's called the cut and chunk technique. There's an animation of it in my smoking tooth video that's on my YouTube channel. And but basically, both the dentist and the dental assistant should look like they're getting ready to go into outer space. They have a respirator on, they got their hair covered, they got their face covered, they're wearing a gown that's going to go into the hazardous waste recycler. You can't burn them. You have to take those things up and put them into a recycle can that gets buried, not stuck into the incinerator, because incinerator, now you just contaminated the neighbors. And that's how they look. How you look is you got a nose hose and a rubber dam, and you're holding a giant sucky thing. And the assistant is holding another high volume vacuum next to the tooth, and that there's a vacuum underneath the rubber dam in case any vapor gets underneath there, and you're told not to breathe through your mouth. And it's real nice if you could get some OSR and have that in your bloodstream. Dr. Haley did experiments with animals, and he wanted to see if this stuff worked. So he gave the animals some OSR, and then he got a lethal injection of mercury and injected them with a lethal amount of mercury. None of the animals died. Just from a single dose of OSR. Nothing in the world's ever done that. It's like the eagle we were talking about. It got up and flew away. It was so sick it couldn't get up and eat the fish, which were contaminated with mercury. But get a couple of doses of OSR down that bird, and he's back in the air. So, it's a miracle that you're being prevented from getting by the FDA.
Yeah. And to make it perfectly clear too, folks, I've been through this, and I met Hal Huggins, that I told you, in 2004, and we didn't have a good detox mechanism. He basically said do a vitamin C flush, which I did. My wife didn't. We paid for it. What we've been recommending to our clients, Dr. Kennedy, is let's get the bowels opened. Let's do a full 10-day cleanse, get everything opened up. We do a liver cleanse, and we get these pathways open, get that lymphatic moving, get it cleared out, get things moving really, really well. Go see your dentist, and now your body has a better chance to keep moving these things out as we go along.
Especially if you got some OSR going through you, because the mercury will not harm you if you've got OSR in your bloodstream. And that's if I had my way, everybody would get a nice big handful of OSR, and
But we can't get that now, is what you're telling me.
not yet. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been throwing money at the drug approval process, and we're going to have to sue them. They're not following their own rules. It's an orphan drug because nothing in the world has ever saved an animal from a lethal injection of mercury. You can take all the zeolite or the garlic or all the stuff that's touted as cilantro. I don't care what it is. All of those animals would die if you gave it a lethal dose of mercury. So are they effective in preventing that? No. OSR 100% effective. So why don't you have that? You don't have that because the people giving you the mercury don't want you to have that, because all of a sudden you notice, oh, like I've been taking it for 15 years. I don't wear glasses anymore. I passed my flying physical with 2020. I've worn glasses since I got 13 mercury fillings when I was 13.
Oh my goodness.
It damages every neurological system in the human body, including your eyes.
That makes a lot of sense, because I started getting, the drill, fill, and bill deal when I was a young kid, and I think I was fifth grade when I had to have glasses. And I had 13 fillings when it was all said and done, and a root canal. So, and I used to have to change my glasses every year. I got on antioxidants, started taking vitamins in '91. Started going down my path. And that made a big difference in slowing. And I've hardly had to change my prescription in 30 years since I got on some really good quality nutrients.
Well, Boyd Haley sent me some of his OSR back in 2007, and it was back when he made it in his own laboratory. Came in a test tube.
Oh my gosh!
That sends you something in a test tube. That he made that, and so I started taking it in 2007. And I kept getting my glasses changed. And I said to my ophthalmologist, I said, my eyes getting worse? And he said, no, they're getting better.
Yeah.
Oh, really? And he said, yeah, a lot better. And, it used to be 20/80. And at the time, I think I was 20/30. And that I continued to take it. And I've been taking it, since 2007.
Wow.
And about 3 years ago, I passed my flying physical 2020.
That's amazing.
And so, but if you want to go look and see, if you go mercury poisoning and go to Wikipedia, there's a whole list of dimming of vision, narrowing of vision, loss of color discrimination, a whole bunch of stuff about the eyes, inability to accommodate. I can read, I don't have to wear cheaters. I can see close up and far. So that's the flexibility of the lens. Well, what makes the lens stiff? Mercury. So the reason you wear bifocals is because your lens is stiff. And even Ben Franklin wore bifocals. So there's been mercury around for 200 years. It's not new. It's just that now we have a solution to that everybody should demand, because we're being inhibited by industry that doesn't want you to know you're being poisoned by their coal-fired power plants, broken fluorescent tubes, dentistry, vaccines, bad fish. All fish are bad, by the way. The older it is, the worse it is. Probably, and your farm salmon are worse.
Yeah, stay away from farm. Yeah, I learned that.
they feed them fish. Oops.
Amazing what we did to ourselves.
Well, the reason we do that to ourselves is because we've allowed industry to participate in a democracy of the industry, for the industry, and by the industry.
That's
not
what it is.
People, for the people, by the people. When you allow Russia or China to interfere in your elections, we get really angry. How about if Monsanto wants to interfere? How would that be? That would be fluoridation. Fluoridation is Monsanto getting rid of hazardous waste, and it's part of the nuclear program. So we've got the Army interfering in our elections. No. Only people that can vote and our citizens should be allowed to interfere in our elections. If you're not a citizen, you can walk the precincts and help your friends.
Yeah, it's going to take the grassroots.
Yeah, but we got to get back to grassroots, because if we're not grassroots, we're industry roots, and they're going to do the business of industries.
Yeah, we've been too passive and lethargic as we have been participating, and that's got to change if we're going to change this around. Awesome! Oh my goodness! I think the only thing I didn't mention is hard bristle or soft bristle for a toothbrush.
Soft, really soft. It's called the Bass brush. It's
a Bass.
BASS. He was the guy that described the Bass technique of brushing. And he made his own brush out of an Oral-B 40.
Okay.
So a pair of pliers and an Oral-B 40, and you pulled out every other bristle in a staggered pattern. You'd have a bass brush, or you can buy it from there's a close to it by John O. Butler, and the exact bass brush is made by a company in Oklahoma. I'll give you the name of that company in a second as soon as my gray matter spins up. And,
hey guys, if you're listening, to get all these videos where his documentaries are not hidden, are on youtube.com/David Kennedy DDS. Go there and check those out. Better than watching anything on Netflix. You're going to learn so much on those videos and really make yourself aware of what's going on and what you can do for your own family to take care and keep these pollutants out of your body or get them out of your body. It's a big deal. Very big deal.
the name of the company is POH, Personal Oral Hygiene.
POA, Personal Oral.
POH, Personal Oral Hygiene.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they sell the bass brush.
Okay, bass brush.
Exactly like Dr. Bass designed it. So thank you, POH. And the company was started by a guy named Jones, who was a periodontist, and he found that using the bass brush was a whole lot better than everything else available. And he couldn't find any place. He got tired of pulling bristles out of another brush. So he bought a toothbrush making machine and started making them. And his son is still running the company today.
Do you like the little vibration toothbrush machines? You like those?
They're not vigorous enough. Electric toothbrushes are good. Oral-B Braun is my favorite electric toothbrush. Used to be the Interplaque, but it had so many moving parts it died pretty quickly. So it's gone bust. So Oral-B Braun is my current favorite. But the sonic brushes are not vigorous enough.
All right. Okay, awesome.
And that's a wrap for today, folks. We've been talking to dentist Dr. David Kennedy. And you can find out more about him on his YouTube channel at David Kennedy DDS. And he's got many, many videos over there. We've been talking about root canals, fluoride in the water, what it does to our brain, implants, should you do them or not, root canals. Subscribe to that channel. Give us a review. I really appreciate it if you do that. And we'll be back again next week for another edition of the Whole Body Detox Show. I'm David DeHaas from Living Waters, livingwaterscleanse.com, where miracles begin by healing from within.
You can't treat the body and heal it a piece at a time. You have to treat the whole body naturally. That's why Living Waters Wellness Center 10-day healing retreat is so successful in helping what I call the incurables back to wellness. Here's what a few clients had to say about their experience at Living Waters Wellness Center.
For over a year, I've been dealing with gas pains, stomach pains, and it's been waking me up in the middle of the night, so I never get a full night's rest. And last night, after my first colonics, I slept through the entire night without any stomach pain or any kind of issues.
I suffered from migraine headaches for 12 years, once a month, and since I did the 10-day retreat at Living Waters Wellness Center 8 years ago, I have not even had a migraine. I've not even had a headache.
I had back pain on my left side for about 25 years. After the 10-day healing retreat, the pain is completely gone.
To learn more about the 10-day healing retreat, go to healingtheincurables.com or call the office at 208-378-9911. That's 208-378-9911. The preceding examples may not be typical of your experience and may not be right for you. Seek the opinion of a qualified healthcare professional before determining if cleansing is right for you.